This is Hannibal from the HannibalTV.com, and I'm going to do my weekly Wrestling Observer review right now. Hello, Victor Murphy, John, and AT Lurker. The first part of this review is all political stuff. Meltzer seems to be very anti-Trump, but I'm not going to get into that because this is a Wrestling Observer review, so I'm going to focus on the wrestling and MMA aspects of the news. So I'll start off with WWE news. Starting this coming week, if WWE wants, they could have fans back in attendance in Florida. Florida is once again allowing public gatherings for concerts, wrestling, and other events as long as the buildings don't go over 50% capacity. That might be an issue when they run in the Performance Center, which can only hold maybe 100 to 200 fans. But when they get into the real arenas, it's very rare that WWE actually sells over 50% tickets before the lockdown. So I think they'll be just fine. There's been more WWE salary cuts over the past week. Many producers and referees had their pay cut by as much as 10%, but no actual wrestling talent, according to this, has been cut pay yet because it would be breach of contract. Rob Gronkowski is released. He's going back to football, playing for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. As I said in a previous video where I talked about the way that they explained his release on TV, is one of his friends took off his shirt to reveal a WWE referee's shirt, and R-Truth rolled however you say it, Gronkowski up and did the 1, 2, 3. So basically anyone that wears a referee shirt can now referee a title match in WWE is what that tells me. So no one really feels any of their titles in that company have value anymore. But that thing where just a random person can now be a referee is just ridiculous. The lead producer on SmackDown now is Road Warrior Animal's brother, John Laurinaitis, who is also, coincidentally, the stepfather of the Bella twins, as Animal and I discussed in his 2020 shoot interview with me that is posted in full now at patreon.com/thehannibaltv, along with my full shoots ad-free of Ricky Morton and others. And you're helping out the channel if you subscribe there. Al Snow's up there too. Many people believe that the whole Drake Maverick firing angle that they did could have been a work from the beginning. What happened there is he was one of the wrestlers that were released apparently back in April. He made a video where he cried about it. So he was brought back. It's unknown if he was brought back under lower pay or the same deal. All that's known really is whatever deal he signed, it wasn't a surprise to him on the NXT show that he had re-signed. He's known he's been re-signed. Prior to that, what boggles my mind is this guy's like 5'4", maybe 150 pounds. It seems like the entire NXT roster is overflowed with these little guys. One of the reasons I find it not interesting at all. Yet Davey Boy Smith Jr., who is a legitimate athlete, big guy, has the lineage in the professional wrestling business as a member of the Hart family, son of the British Bulldog. Yet Davey Boy Smith Jr. can't get a contract, but this little pipsqueak mini wrestler cries when he's released and he gets a contract. If that whole thing was a shoot, it may have just been a work and an angle all along. Mathis Bofetti just tipped me $5. He says my Patreon channel is awesome. Thanks for the great interviews. Well, you're welcome. And it's only $1.99 a month for people to subscribe on there. And all the interviews are posted ad-free. And before I post them in full on YouTube, I post them on there, but you're helping my channel. I'm already working on new interviews for next week. So thank you, Mathis. Jinder Mahal is once again injured. Underwent surgery today. It was related to his knee. That's not good for Mahal because he was just brought back and he got another injury. The only thing good about it is WWE gets these injuries taken away. If he taken care of right away. If he lived in Canada, he wouldn't even be able to get surgery anytime soon because they aren't doing any surgeries in Canada yet. At least in Ontario, I know tons of people that require surgeries, but due to the lockdown here in Ontario anyways, but I'm going to assume in other parts of Canada, they've just stopped doing surgeries, which is bullshit in my opinion. And also, even in the good times with our healthcare system, you need to wait months to get surgery. I tore my meniscus back in 2011 in an amateur wrestling match. It literally took 10 months to get the surgery done. 10 months of waiting around. But I did still win the match where I got my meniscus torn, escaping from a single leg takedown. Mike Hamilton just tipped me $10. Thank you very much, Mike. He says, thanks for all you do, brother. How does Mojo Riley still have a job? I don't know. I would get rid of a lot of people in WWE. And out of all those cuts they made in April, the only guy out of there that I think had a good upside was Luke Gallows, as I've stated before. So thank you for the $10 tip, Mike Hamilton. Christopher DeJoseph, who was apparently a lead writer for WWE. I believe he also worked for Lucha Underground, but he was known as that big dick dancing guy for a while. He was fired, and I guess this is due to something he either said to McMahon or McMahon heard about him. We know how all the backstage politics work, everyone talking trash about everyone behind their back, but it looks like this Christopher DeJoseph was fired. As far as this Nia Jax, Kairi Sane angle, I've already done a video on it. They mention it here again in the Observer. The match was reshot. At some point in time, whether work or shoot, the injury looks like a blade job to me. But there's no surprises again. I'll tell you this. In WWE, the matches are choreographed and planned, particularly when they're on TV. So if you're going to go outside the ring and use an object like the stairs, you definitely have to get approval from an agent to do that, or an agent will plan it out to do that. So getting thrown into the stairs wouldn't have been a surprise. But Nia Jax threw this Kairi Sane into the stairs. Apparently she got cut. It was either a blade job that was kayfabed, or she just didn't put her hands up like you're supposed to do in wrestling, and got cut on the stairs. They stopped the match, fixed the cut, wiped up the blood, and redid the match. It's unknown how much of the match they redid. They may have redone her getting thrown into the stairs, because when I watched this girl get thrown into the stairs, I didn't see anything wrong with it. There was a distance of about 5 feet between her and the stairs. Plenty of time. It doesn't take 5 seconds to put your hand up. It takes 1 second if you want to protect your face. And here's the other weird thing, okay? This Kairi Sane posted the picture of what I believe is a blade job on her head. It's basically a mark on her head, similar to all these marks, a line from a blade job. So she posts this picture on her Facebook, but if they've edited out, not her Facebook or Twitter, if they've edited out the blood from the match, that just shows you how fake WWE is, because what? You got this injury in the match, but there's no evidence of it in the match. Why would you even show that if in the match there's no blood or no cut? That doesn't make sense. I believe there's a very good chance that they wanted to get everyone talking. This Nia Jax was the most talked about heel on Raw. She has a history of injuring wrestlers, but I watched this, the throw into the stairs. There was nothing wrong with it. This is an angle to get people talking. And by the way, in this Kairi Sane tweet where she shows the blade job, once again, it's a line that looks like that, a scratch on her head that everybody's crying about on the internet. It's wrestling. You're supposed to be tough. But she posts in this that she's vowed revenge. She wants revenge, and she's going to get revenge on this Nia Jax. So there's another hint that this is a big angle, that you're supposed to want to see this revenge because of the little scratch on her head that some people are alleging required stitches. I didn't notice any stitches on this cut. It showed a before and after. It looked like they glued it back or sealed back, but it's not out of the ordinary for blade jobs to require stitches. Not out of the ordinary at all. But if you wrestling fans and the Dave Meltzers of the world want to believe, even though they haven't had wrestling matches or they haven't had extensive training like me, I've probably had at least 1,000 wrestling matches, wrestled for WWE, Impact, Puerto Rico, England, all over Canada, in parts of the US, in the Dominican. That stair thing didn't look anything out of the ordinary to me. I believe it was all an angle. So that's all I'm going to say about that. Kurt Angle says he was offered a role as the manager of Matt Riddle, and he turned it down. Bray Wyatt and the ring announcer, formerly known as JoJo, have had their second child. Ric Flair has been re-signed to WWE, and he owns the rights to the term "the man" that Becky Lynch has been using. He tried to sue WWE over that. Many believe, including Kevin Sullivan, that when they sent Ric Flair to Saudi Arabia with Hulk Hogan last year, that was after the lawsuit started, that the huge payment Flair got related to that was part of whatever settlement was done at that time regarding to the lawsuit, because WWE, as a general rule, does not let people that have running lawsuits against them still work. So both Hogan and Flair allegedly got huge paydays for that Saudi Arabia show they were involved with last year. MVP, who was originally brought back to be a producer, is no longer a producer. He is a full-time talent. In XFL news, The Atlantic has reported in relation to the XFL bankruptcy that in the final days before the XFL filed bankruptcy, XFL made 9 payments totaling $2.3 million to the WWE. There's going to be an auction for XFL assets on August 3rd in Delaware. If somebody buys the XFL, the first $9 million is reportedly going to go to Vince McMahon, because rather than continue to use his personal money to fund the XFL, sometime in March, Vince McMahon took out a loan for $9 million and made himself a secured creditor of the XFL. As far as assets go, XFL still has $8.1 million in cash, $9 million in office furniture, equipment and collectibles, and $3 million in property to sell at this bankruptcy court. In the ratings news, AEW did 730,000 viewers for their Dynamite show on TNT this week and scored a 0.29 rating. NXT lost again in the ratings war, but not by much. They did 715,000 viewers and a 0.2 rating. So not great ratings for either AEW or NXT. Total Bellas is consistently beating NXT in the ratings. Total Bellas did a 0.21 rating. So they're consistently getting better 18 to 49 ratings than NXT. WWE Backstage did a 0.04 rating this week. Raw once again did its second lowest number in history. They keep continually getting this second lowest number in history. They did a 0.49 this week in the ratings. SmackDown last Friday night did a 0.5 rating on Fox. In AEW news, there was some controversy this week related to a match on Dark that I guess was scratched because a wrestler named Clutch Adams had a job match, I guess, against Sean Spears, who, by the way, Tully Blanchard no longer manages Sean Spears. I guess Spears is being moved down the card. The match was eventually not shown on TV because somebody went back on this guy's Twitter. He's now 27, but I guess when he was 19, he said homo or something along the lines of calling somebody a homo on Twitter. So AEW scratched the match. The guy apologized for it. Other companies are now saying they're never going to use the guy. Tony Khan also went out of his way to state he's never going to use Hulk Hogan or Linda Hogan in AEW, I guess because he believes they're racist. I do find it interesting that I'm not saying anything is wrong if he wants to ban people. I do believe saying Hogan and Linda are banned public when they haven't even – no one's expected them to go there. So that's like me saying Hulk Hogan and Linda Hogan are banned from Great North Wrestling. It's not going to happen. So would I say that just to get news? No, because I'm not a geek. I'm not a little dweeb. But he has no issue using a convicted rapist, Mike Tyson, in a major storyline or promoting a convicted racist rapist. Mike Tyson raped a woman and actually went to jail for it. So he forcibly put his dick in a woman that didn't want it, went to jail for it. Tony Khan has no problem promoting Mike Tyson, but somebody that says the word homo on their Twitter 7 years ago, he's gonna take off TV. I'm not saying that what that kid said was right, but I just find it weird that he'll ban certain people, but he doesn't have a problem with rapists. I find that weird because me personally, I have a problem with rape. I do believe that Tyson has paid his debt to society. I also believe that Hogan's apologized time and time and time again for saying the N-word, but whatever. Obviously, I'm never going to AEW. Not a fan of the product. Ring of Honor news. Mark Haskins was fined $4,000 from the Maryland State Athletic Commission because I guess he intentionally used blood in his match against Bully Ray back on December 13th in Baltimore. Something to do with barbed wire or something like that. AEW was fined for that, related to the Jon Moxley versus Kenny Omega match. It's interesting here, though, that they're fining the wrestler rather than the company, as I would imagine if it was a barbed wire board or something like that used in this, I would imagine a big company like Ring of Honor would provide the weapons to be used in the match. and they wouldn't just tell the wrestlers to just bring their own weapons. You'd think a company owned by Sinclair Broadcasting would find a weapon that is safe to use. In New Japan news, I guess baseball's opening back up June 19th in empty stadiums. New Japan's probably going to make an announcement soon about when they're going to start running again. It's unknown if they're going to start running in empty arenas or not. They might have fans, they might not. In other wrestling news, Matt Morgan, who's now 43, former WWE wrestler, Tough Enough contestant. He's the mayor of Longwood, Florida right now. He's running for county commissioner in District 1 of Seminole County. Bobby Fulton of the Fantastics announced today that he's been declared cancer-free. And as I said, the healthcare system here in Canada is on hold right now unless you have COVID-19, even though our cases here are not very high at all. But I'm cancer-free now too. I had a very small cancer issue and I had it removed last week, but I had to pay to have it done at a private clinic. We're supposed to have free healthcare here, but it's one of the shittiest healthcare systems. What kind of healthcare system closes up due to COVID-19 and denies cancer patients treatment? And I'm not even that serious a cancer patient. There's patients that need chemotherapy that have been denied treatment. CZW's Danny Havoc passed away on May 31st at the age of 34. The exact cause of death is unknown, but obviously if you're passing away at 34, there's probably some type of unusual circumstances there. In UFC news, John Jones has stated he wants to vacate the lightweight title. This is related to a feud that he has with Dana White. I guess Jones wants to fight Francis Ngannou, a fight that literally all the fans want to see. But Jones says he asked for $15 million for that fight. His regular pay for a fight is $5 million. Dana White is alleging that Jones actually asked for $30 million. But this ESPN deal, where ESPN has the right to UFC pay-per-views now, only pays UFC $16.7 million per pay-per-view. And I guess that's in the United States. UFC can still get other pay-per-view money from other countries, and of course, merchandise sales and live event money at arenas. But because, let's say you did that super fight between Jones and Ngannou and it had huge pay-per-view buys, yes, UFC would still get it from the other countries, but in the United States, you'd only have $16.7 million from ESPN. So to pay the big name fighters like the George St. Pierre's, John Joneses, Conor McGregor's of the world, extra money to have these big fights because they only get a set amount from ESPN, that is not necessarily a good thing for the super fights that the fan really want to see, because they could do a lesser fight and get the same amount of money. So in other MMA news, Conor McGregor was ranked number 16 on the highest paid athletes of the year list. He was listed at earning $48 million. He's the only wrestler or MMA fighter, combat sports athlete that made the Forbes list. It is noteworthy. He only fought once last year, but this includes his revenue from other sources. McGregor has stated he wants to fight Anderson Silva, who also wants that fight, but for the same reasons just stated. That might be a difficult fight to pull off money-wise. Also, Dana White, according to Meltzer, doesn't seem that interested in putting that fight together. White is saying that June 27th is going to be the Fight Island debut. According to reports, it's going to be in Abu Dhabi somewhere. I think Yan Island or something like that. Dustin Poirier versus Dan Hooker. It's going to be the main event of that show. Dana White has said he's going to stay the entire month on that island. Gilbert Burns got a decision victory over Tyrone Woodley on the UFC May 30th show on ESPN. The main card only had a 0.42 rating. So interesting that card actually had a lower rating than Raw and SmackDown. Burns got $214,000 for winning that fight. And that includes his performance bonus, which I guess was a $50,000 bonus. And Woodley got $200,000 for losing that fight. So that's all the main news, the news that I found interesting in the Wrestling Observer. I'll go through some of your questions. I'm not even going to get into that. I'm not going to tell those stories because I'm still young. AT Looker is asking me about those type of tales, but I'm not going to get into that. Richard Min says Meltzer gives Trump 2.5 stars. Ha ha ha. He's definitely biased towards, he doesn't like Trump, and he's really, really, really biased towards AEW and all his reporting, from what I've noticed since I've been following it. Ethan Wilkins, I should watch an NXT TakeOver show. Good God, no. So if you want to pay me $500, I will. $500 US. If you want to tip me, Ethan Wilkins, $500 US right now, I'll watch it. But that's what it's going to take. Jimmy B747 says, great show as always. Zerky 842 says, what if everyone on Earth farted at the same time? That would be quite something. Maybe someone should arrange that. Mexi Ghost 186 says, I heard Flair was in critical condition. I have not heard anything about that. And I was looking at the latest news right up until before I started doing this update at 9 p.m. tonight. Someone says Hornswoggle will be the next NXT champion. Well, this Drake Marshall isn't that much bigger than Hornswoggle, and this Adam guy, I don't even remember his last name, whoever the current NXT champion is, literally looks like a 9th grader that doesn't work out. Triple H likes the scrawny guys and the little mini wrestlers, pint-sized brawlers, as I like to call them. Richard Mintz, how does Rougeau's son not get a development deal? Politics. We all know Kevin Owens doesn't like Jacques Rougeau. Might have something to do with that, but Rougeau's son, he's like 6'6", 300 pounds. He has the Rougeau name. He was in his 20s. He's still in his 20s, but why they would not give him a development deal, I have no idea. They gave some – there's another wrestler, too, from Quebec. I forget their names. One of them, I think, is trying to use the last name Martel, even though, to my knowledge, he's no relation to Rick Martel. But these guys were the drizzling shits in any match I've seen them in. But they'll give those. They're not only are they crappy, but they're small. But Jacques Rougeau's son, who looks like a movie star, huge ladies' man, and is huge and muscular, you're not going to give him a chance with the Rougeau name? I don't know. Something fishy there for sure, Richard. Yes, Jinder got hurt, to respond to that. Cosmo says, can I please give a shout out to Norman? There you go. There's a shout out to Lauren and Norman. Sam Lenz has a good point. He says small wrestlers would be fine if they could get ratings or a crowd. Good point. Good point. But the mainstream like the larger than life characters. If you look at The Rock, Bruno Sammartino, superstar Billy Graham, even Bob Backlund is a big guy. Hulk Hogan, John Cena, Kevin Nash, all these massively star wrestlers, Batista, these are all larger than life characters. Too many spot fests ain't wrestling. And it's true. It's more like watching gymnastics, a lot of these little guys. Job number one for wrestler, put asses in the seats. True. Someone whose ex-guy kill us is inside people that want to go to work and not starve and make a living were demonized and criticized and told to not be selfish and stay inside. A lot of those same people are now rioting and looting. I don't know if you're referring to the people that called them selfish or the people that are starving, but obviously I believe a lot that has to do with these riots is the lockdown has made people poor and they need money and they need stuff. So these riots are a perfect excuse to go out and steal. Can I interview Trish Stratus? I wouldn't be opposed to it. The JMC says in relation to the Nia Jax thing, exactly, people get cuts. Who cares? Exactly. I fully agree. A cut is nothing. And this is like a scratch. It's not even a serious cut. I don't even believe it required stitches. At one point in time, to be a wrestler, you were considered one of the toughest in the world. Anyone can be a wrestler now. It's really sad. One of the reasons I don't like wrestling. Mark Gallo says worst wrestling gimmick. He believes is Mantar. I don't know about that. There's been a lot of really bad gimmicks. The gimmick where Harlem Heat were brought to the ring with chains in WCW and managed by Colonel Parker. If you want to hear more about that, watch my Colonel Parker interview on this channel. WCW had an idea for him to bring them out with chains, and that was a really bad gimmick. Someone says the whole idea of TNA having a men's champion is ridiculous and isn't going to help them. Well, they haven't announced their ratings for a long time. The last time I heard their viewership announced, literally it was 5,000 people watching the TNA Impact show. So I don't imagine there's that many people watching. They are on a different source now, but I'll be honest. Somebody sent me the link of Ken Shamrock and Michael Elgin doing something on Impact, and there was a lot of cuts in it, which made me believe there was a lot more mistakes than was shown. But the clip I saw was really, really bad. I don't know how much they're paying Shamrock, but Michael Elgin is also one of the most overrated wrestlers in the world. Another short guy. Mark says wrestling will never be as popular as it once was. It could be if they had a big enough star. It's all about the star power. They don't have any really huge. The biggest star in wrestling right now that's active is probably Chris Jericho. That's probably the biggest star in wrestling that's active and wrestling regular. Ethan says the Clutch Adams thing in AEW is hypocritical because they kept Scorpio Sky for making some similar remarks years ago. I don't know anything about the Scorpio Sky thing, but I think it also has to do with Clutch Adams is a low card guy. So for the people on the lower of the card, they'll ditch them for doing nothing. But Mike Tyson, who's a star in the company, they'll give them a pass. And for the comments about Hogan and Linda, it's not I highly doubt there was ever a deal on the table for Hulk Hogan or Linda Hogan, who, by the way, Linda Hogan has been divorced from Hulk for 11 years. But I'm not a fan of Hulk Hogan. You all know that, but I still find it ridiculous to say you're not going to use him when that's not, it doesn't even seem like it was going to be a possibility to begin with. Jeff says, continue to stick to your principles, Hannibal. I will. I'm honest. I'm not fake. For the people that say smile more, I'm not going to sit here and smile and say everything's wonderful. NXT, amazing show. AEW, wow, they're blowing the world away. You're never going to believe what AEW did this week. I'm not going to be fake like that. I'm going to tell you how I really feel. PWC 24/7 says AEW is whack. Patrick J says Hogan isn't allowed in AEW because he's taller than 5'7". Ha ha. Hilarious. And Patrick J is a big The Hannibal TV supporter. Thanks for your continued support. Jeff Doherty says Hogan is way too big for AEW. I agree. Mr. Showbiz Guy says Cody stinks. Orlo Myers says New Japan is making an announcement about them resuming operations on Monday. Yes, I also heard that. So there's a bunch of other questions, but I'm actually getting hot. It's actually hot here today. And I forgot to refill my water, and I'm over 35 minutes. So I'm not going to go too much longer here. Moving On Podcast says AEW sucks. Kurt Powell 321 says Hulk Hogan forever. Steve says, do I agree that there's too many belts in WWE? Yes. First of all, there should only be one main champion because they mix all the brands anyways. So why would they mix the brands always, continuously, since they even began this brand split, but they never actually stick to the brand splits? Why do we need two world champions? And then there's so many meaningless titles. I mean, there's at least 10 different titles, probably more. It just makes them all meaningless. Someone says too many ugly belts too. Ethan says their title designs are lazy now in WWE. I agree. So thanks for all your questions and thanks for the tips. Have a great night, everyone. I already trained once today. I'm going to do my second workout soon. And follow us on Twitter and Instagram at The Hannibal TV. I do post videos on Instagram now too. And if you go to thehannibaltv.com or look in the link of this video in the description, you can find the link to the Great North Wrestling Podcast, where you can get automatic audio downloads of all my full career interviews. So I'll answer one more question. WrestleManiacs, what was Great North Wrestling's biggest attendance? It was 4,000 for our first ever event, actually, which was a mega show that literally I invested all the money I had into it. And although the show ultimately did make a little bit of money, the stress that I had on me was huge over that event. So have a good night, everyone. Have a great weekend.